If you spend one night with me, that $5 million deal will be yours. I read that message at least a dozen times in the dark. And that was when I knew my career was about to collapse. My name is Scarlett. I'm 30 years old, living in New York, and I'm a strategic marketing director at Raven Dynamics, the biggest media powerhouse on the East Coast. Through sweat, sleepless nights, and relentless ambition, I climbed my way up to lead campaigns worth millions, from fashion to tech to even political elections. I wasn't model beautiful, but I was sharp, driven, and never relied on looks to get ahead. I believed in talent and tenacity. But then, it all came crashing down because I refused to play the game of trading sex for success. That evening, I had dinner with a client, the CEO of Velour Cosmetics, a $5 million deal I had been chasing for months. They loved my pitch, approved nearly every term. The final step was a friendly dinner with the man holding the final say, Nathaniel Cross, chairman of Raven Dynamics. Nathaniel was a dangerous mix, charming, powerful, and deadly like a panther in a tailored suit. I'd heard rumors, glowing praise about his genius, hushed whispers about the women who'd spent the night to rise in the ranks. I thought I could win without selling myself. Until that text came, no greeting, no signature, just a room number and time. I deleted it. I thought ignoring it would make it vanish. I was wrong. 2 days later, the Velour deal was handed to someone else, a junior exec who'd only been at the firm a year. I protested. I demanded a meeting. I asked for answers. Nathaniel smiled during the private meeting. Scarlett, not everyone's cut out for global strategy. Sometimes we need flexibility. The ability to seize opportunity. It felt like a slap in the face. No more illusions. I, Scarlett Walker, who had sacrificed nearly a decade for this company, was being punished for saying no to the bed. And this was only the beginning. When I refused to sleep with my boss, I didn't just lose a deal, I became a target. I wasn't falling, I was being pushed. One step at a time, mercilessly. I kept showing up to the office, wearing my calm-like armor, though inside I was a storm. I thought they'd stop at the Velour deal, but that was just the beginning. I was excluded from critical meetings. Strategic emails no longer included me. My reports were under review, quietly reassigned to others for final touches. No one said a word. No formal accusation. No written warning. It was all silent, precise, like some invisible hand was slowly strangling my career. I went to HR. I told them about the message. I was shaking, but I hoped anyone would stand with me. The HR officer, Melissa, sighed. Scarlett, do you have any proof? The message. I froze. I had deleted it. Well, without evidence, I'm afraid there's not much we can do. I suggest you keep this quiet. For your own future. I walked out of that room with fists clenched. Me, the Iron Woman of strategy, reduced to trembling silence. I wanted to fight. But fight what? Fight who? When everything was smoke and shadows, I called my best friend, Tina, an investigative journalist with a major Manhattan paper. If anyone could help me expose this, it was her. She was silent for a moment. Then she said something I'll never forget. Scarlett, you've poked a shark. If you want to bring him down, you'll have to swim like one. But be ready. You might lose everything. That night, I stared at myself in the mirror. I wasn't the same fiery Scarlett from 9 years ago. I had sacrificed my youth, time, even love, only to face one question. Will I stay silent or start fighting back? I started collecting evidence. To expose a devil in a suit, I had to become the shadow with a purpose. Going public was suicide. So I stayed quiet, but I didn't give up. Tina handed me a tiny recorder. Clip it on your jacket or slip it in your bag. You don't have to say anything, just let them speak. I began recording every meeting, every hallway chat, even when I wasn't involved. I became a ghost in the halls I once ruled. I also reached out to ex-employees, people who'd quit mysteriously or fallen from grace overnight. One of them was Vanessa, former head of communications. She initially refused to talk. But when I mentioned Nathaniel, she paused, long, trembling silence, then said, "I used to think silence was smart. Now, I wish I'd spoken sooner." Vanessa sent me a password-protected Drive folder. Inside, photos, emails, and audio files, evidence of a coercion incident from 3 years ago. She was the victim. The case had been buried under hush money and a non-disclosure agreement. For the first time, I saw the iceberg beneath Raven Dynamics. I documented everything. I cataloged, cross-referenced, backed up to an encrypted drive. Each night, I wrote in a journal not to vent, but to leave a trail in case I disappeared. Then came the moment. During a boardroom meeting, Nathaniel slipped in a mocking remark. "Scarlett probably doesn't need big campaigns. She has her own ways of getting ahead." I smiled. No response needed. The recorder in my blazer was doing its job. I didn't yet know how deep this rabbit hole went. But I knew one thing: this was no longer about survival. It was about cutting deep enough for the world to see blood. I thought I was ready for battle. But nothing prepared me for being smeared, betrayed, and utterly alone. The cost of speaking the truth was losing everything I once believed was mine. I sent the compiled evidence to Tina. She verified every audio clip, every email, every testimony. "Enough to shake Raven Dynamics to the ground," she said. "But also enough for them to come after you." I knew, but I had no way back. A week later, the New York Tribune published an explosive exposé. Power, sex, and silence inside the Raven Dynamics empire. The story detonated. Social media erupted. Vanessa came forward. A former assistant admitted Nathaniel had offered her a promotion in exchange for sex. His name flooded the evening news. I went into hiding for 3 days. Then came the emergency meeting. The boardroom was ice. Nathaniel said nothing, but the company lawyer didn't hold back. "Miss Scarlett, you've violated confidentiality clauses. You recorded conversations illegally, and you've publicly damaged the company's reputation." I laughed. In that moment, I understood. Powerful men don't shout. They strangle with policy. I was suspended. Indefinitely. Without pay. With a warning: continue and will sue for defamation and breach of contract. I walked out like a defeated soldier. But I didn't collapse. That same day, Tina called. "Scarlett, you've been invited to speak at the #MeToo conference next week. They want you as a live witness. Do you dare?" I looked at the heels that had carried me through countless meetings and sleepless nights. Then I said, "If truth costs me my career, maybe it's a price worth paying." I used to think standing before hundreds to tell the truth would be the hardest part. It wasn't. The hardest part was looking into their eyes and enduring the silence. Until the first clap broke through. I stepped onto the #MeToo conference stage with frozen hands and a pounding heart. Every beat echoed in my chest. The spotlight hit my face. Before me sat hundreds: journalists, survivors, strangers, watching, waiting. I didn't read. I spoke. I told them about the message, about Nathaniel's cold stare, about the silence that kills your inner voice. I told it all with pain, with fear, and with a fragile hope that someone out there would understand. When I finished, the room was silent. I thought they didn't believe me. I thought I had failed. Then, someone stood up. It was Vanessa. She walked on stage, held my hand. Then another woman. A girl, barely 25. I used to work at Raven too. Nathaniel called me into a private meeting at 9 p.m. One story led to another. Secrets turned into sentences. Faces that once trembled now spoke. The media streamed the entire event live. And I, Scarlett Walker, went from company rule-breaker to a symbol against the rot of unchecked power. 3 days later, Raven Dynamics released a statement. Nathaniel Cross was stepping down temporarily pending internal investigation. I knew it wasn't the final win, but it was the first time he backed down. That night, I returned to my empty apartment, opened my laptop, and checked my inbox. Hundreds of emails, messages from women across America, saying thank you. None of them knew me, but they believed me. For the first time in months, I sat on my couch and cried, not because I was broken, but because I knew I still mattered. I thought I had won, but not all light saves. Some lights burn everything left behind. I never imagined the person I trusted most would betray me for an exclusive deal. Tina, my best friend, my confidant, sold my story to a major publishing house. Not expose the truth, but to print a tell-all memoir titled, Trading Sex for Power, The Inside Confession. My name was splashed across the cover. My face plastered on Amazon. I had no idea until a journalist knocked on my door for a follow-up on your brave recovery. I felt stripped bare on a crowded street. I called Tina. She cried. I'm sorry. They offered so much and said even if you don't sign, they'll use public information. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I was silent. Because I realized, even when you fight for justice, people will still use your blood for display. I left New York. No press release. No farewell speech. I vanished as the nation roared over Raven Dynamics. 3 months later, I emerged in a small Oregon town where I met a middle-aged woman named Elena who ran a nonprofit for workplace harassment survivors. She recognized me. Would you help us write a training program? She asked. Not about laws, but about courage. I laughed. For the first time, someone didn't want to exploit my story, but to transform it. 1 year later, I was no longer a director, no longer a media figure, no longer a name on headlines. I was just Scarlett, writing curriculum for women who once believed their voice meant nothing. Sometimes I stand before a class and tell my story, not with anger, not with bitterness, but as a quiet testimony. My career was destroyed, but my dignity was never taken. And sometimes, that's the victory that truly matters.